I'm Jane Doe, secretary to the receptionist to the vice president of Match.com. And if you're still up watching this late night infomercial, that probably makes you someone who's missing a significant other. That's why we're here. At Match.com, we believe there's someone out there for everyone. And for the next half hour, I'll be showing you the ropes to our state-of-the-art, proven effective website through some of our past clients. Now let's revisit some of our success stories.
Match.com has really helped me explore my options when it comes to love. At first, I was hesitant because not only did I not have the slightest idea what a computer was, but also my mother was the one who crafted my profile. Mother, this is quite exaggerated.
Oh, hush, dear. I want the best for you.
At first, I found many surprises. Why does father have an account on a dating website?
That was a while ago, my child.
My father's profile reflected him well. Often people would say that Derbyfield was what was locally called a slack-twisted fellow. He had good strength to work at times, but the times could not be relied on to coincide with the hours of requirement, and, having been unaccustomed to the regular toil of the day laborer, he was not particularly persistent when they did so coincide. Unfortunately, he's a person who is portrayed as lazy, prideful, stubborn, and does not appreciate being told what to do and when. And ever since we discovered our noble lineage, he's also portrayed as one who pridefully and readily embraces our mythical authority. Why, once he addressed a boy from our village, saying, "Boy, take up that basket. I want ye to go on an errand for me." The lath-like stripling frowned. "Who be you then, John Derbyfield, to order me about and call me boy? You know my name as well as I know yours." Do you? That's the secret. That's the secret." Such arrogance. As much as I love my father, I sometimes think the name went to his head, and his carelessness helped place me into my unfortunate situation with my next match, Alec d'Urberville.
Oh, Tess, look! This young gentleman is a Dirkfield just like us. You should look at his profile.
I'm not so certain, Mother.
Oh, come, dear. My fortune-telling book predicted good things for you. What could go wrong?
Unfortunately, things did go wrong. This match blackened my naive self with sin. Throughout my story, he was a masterful wraith, always turning up and attempting to return me to the dark. He was a man of swarthy complexion, with full lips, badly molded, though red and smooth, and touches of barbarism in his contours, tempered by a singular force in the gentleman's face and his bold rolling eye. Even his appearance proclaimed his role as a seducer of dark power and intentions. He maintained a constant presence in my journey, even when he was not present. Whether I liked it or not, he held dominion over me, oppressive always through my sin. He even proclaimed his mastery to me, saying, "Remember, my lady, I was your master once. I will be your master again. If you are any man's wife, you are mine." In my story, he was my possessor, the barrier that caused the rift between my dear angel and me. My next match wasn't a lover at all, but another master. However, the master I found in Mr. Groby contrasted from Alec. In fact, to have as a master this man of stone, who would have cuffed me if he dared, was almost a relief after my former experiences. His role was to show me that the physical toil of his torturing farm labor was preferable to the oppressive mental agony of submitting to Alec and being at war with myself and my conscience. He was the embodiment of the idea that pain of the mind is worse than pain of the body.
Have you found one yet?
Oh, I think so.
Just don't ruin it by telling your little mishap.
When Angel Claire appeared in my life's profile, I met drastic, wonderful changes. It might be said by some that he became a god to me, a deity made from a man that I thought was perfect, but in reality had his flaws. In confiding in him my sin, I quickly discovered these imperfections. I was appalled by the determination revealed in the depths of this gentle being I had married, the will to subdue the grosser to the subtler emotion, the substance to the conception, the flesh to the spirit. Propensities, tendencies, habits were as dead as leaves upon the tyrannous wind of his imaginative ascendancy. His spiritualization of everything portrayed him as a man with somewhat of an aversion to reality. I was not his ideal woman, and he couldn't cope with it. But he also played the role of the dynamic man, a stark contrast to the relapse of Alec after his so-called conversion. Brazil changed my angel. During this time of absence, he had mentally aged a dozen years. What arrested him now as of value in life was less its beauty than its pathos. Having long discredited the old systems of mysticism, he now began to discredit the old appraisements of morality. He thought they wanted readjusting. Who was the moral man? Still more pertinently, who was the moral woman? He was truly a progressive man. His initial love and his ultimate forgiveness gave him the role of my shelter and safe haven from the darkness fate bestowed upon me.
What a great, just inspiring story. And just think, all of these options were found on Match.com. Whether it's the careless, pompous heir to a dead name like John Derbyfield, the mastering oppressor of Alec d'Urberville, the demanding landowner of Farmer Groby, or the dynamic demigod of Angel Clare, Match.com will find the one for you. Let's cut to yet another success story, one that I hope will be a little bit lighter.
I made a profile on Match.com to find a marriage that would close the door on the wild and ridiculous infatuations of my youth. I also wanted to move away from Kentucky, and Match.com gave me the perfect opportunity to have a long-distance relationship. That's when I met Leonce Pontillier. He was handsome, rich, lived in New Orleans, was a Catholic, which was the only problem that my family had with him. It seemed to be the perfect match at the time. I forgot about my profile for years afterwards, but one day I revisited it and found that there were many new matches from the Louisiana area.
Leonce was one of my first matches. He was very flattering and polite online. He came to Kentucky to see me after a few months, and everything was a landslide. He was perfectly flirtatious while courting me, and was always professing his affection. The next thing I knew, we were getting married in a Catholic church in New Orleans. Everything seemed to run smoothly after that. Leonce was a rather courteous husband, so long as he met a certain tacit submissiveness from his wife, me. It didn't bother me because he always treated me so well. We had 2 sons together, and all I seemed to do was chat with socially elevated mothers, attend and host house parties, and go to Grand Isle for vacations. But one day he was talking about the cook, saying, "Suppose I didn't look after the clerks in my office, just let them run things their own way. They'd soon make a nice mess of me and my business." I realized that he had inherently seemed to think that he had an ability to place subtle guidelines on people. He conformed to society well, and because of that, his love had a tendency to raise one's chin in expectation of obedience. Love me he did, but it was not the kind that I desired. It was then that I remembered the profile that I never deactivated, and out of curiosity and amiable rebellion, I decided to see if there's any matches for my amusement. My new matches at first were somewhat uninspiring. I was a little disappointed to find my family's doctor, Dr. Mandley, matched with me. His profile reflected him well, though. Of course, I had no interest in him. Why, once he had told my husband that woman, my friend, is a very peculiar organism. It would require an inspired psychologist to deal successfully with them. And when ordinary fellows like you and me attempt to cope with their idiosyncrasies, the result is bumbling. Most women are moody and whimsical. While he was certainly correct about women being complex, he made this complexity out to be a hassle rather than a triumph of my sex. He played the role of a genuinely concerned friend, but his understanding of my being, my awakening, was on a level much too lowered by society's teachings to truly comprehend the complex independence I had begun to craft for myself. Needless to say, this profile didn't arouse nearly as much interest as that of my next match. There was something different about Robert Lebrun. His clean-shaven face, of how much rested no shadow of care, his I sat gathered and reflected the light and languor of the summer day. Suddenly I found myself stirred with an infatuation I haven't felt since before my marriage. He had penetrated to the sleeping places of my soul and awakened them. His returned affection was one of the instigators of my ultimate awakening. He was a being more connected to me than my legal husband. As I became closer to Alice Arabin, I even felt somewhat like a woman who in a moment of passion is betrayed into an act of infidelity and realizes the significance of the act without being wholly awakened from its glamour. Often the thought would pass vaguely through my mind, what would he think? But I did not mean my husband, I was thinking about Robert Lebrun. As my commitment to Lyons lessened, my infatuated devotion to Robert grew. In his absence in Mexico, I made him into a fantastic, ideal man whom I would share an absolute independence from society with. But the role he really played in my journey was much less surreal. On the night he left for Mexico, I told him, "You don't even have for an excuse for it. Why, I was pining to be together, thinking of how pleasant it would be to see you in the city next winter." "So was I," he blurted. "Perhaps that's the—" Then suddenly he stood up and held out his hand. "Goodbye, my dear Mrs. Pontellier. Goodbye. I hope you won't completely forget me." He did love me, but what I didn't see, or refused to see, was that he was a lover still burdened by society's chains. He left for Mexico to try and forget what he saw through society's eyes as impossible. While Robert was away in Mexico, I became restless, feeling like my life was unfulfilled. I explored my profile again, and the next match was Alcé Arabin. Arabin was well known, and we were somewhat acquainted. There was a perpetual smile in his eyes, which seldom failed to awaken a corresponding cheerfulness in anyone who looked upon them and listened to his good-humored voice. His manner was quiet, and at times a little insolent. He possessed a good figure, a pleasing face, not overburdened with depth of thought or feeling. Even though his appearance and the shallow level of thought and feeling seemed to foreshadow a lack of depth of a relationship that would ensue between us, I was intrigued with the match and decided to test it. We communicated through Match.com, and he had invited me to go with him and Mrs. Highcamp to the horse races, operas, and house parties together. Then came a day when he kissed me, but I felt a dull pain of regret because it was not a kiss of love which had inflamed me, because it was not love which held this cup of life to my lips. It was then that I awakened to the fact of how detached I was from my husband. I wanted to be in love with someone, and Leonce wasn't that person, but Alcé wasn't either. He was only activating the animalistic physical needs in me. The preliminary stage of becoming acquainted was one which he had always endeavored to ignore when a pretty and engaging woman wasn't concerned. It was flattering, but he simply wanted to jump into being intimate. His role was that of a physical lover. Our feelings for each other hardly surpassed our physical desires, making the relationship hollow.
In the end, my Robert wasn't able to free himself from society's laws. Yet even that helped my awakening to evolve. All these men fulfilled their roles in society in one way or another. With the assistance of my Match.com profile, I was able to find my feminine nature that was so long hidden away.
I can't believe we used those as success stories. Well, to those of you who didn't switch the channel, thanks for staying with us. I hope that we've inspired you with all of our success stories, and I hope that you'll make Match.com part of your journey to find your soulmate. Go to Match.com today. Caution! Relationships involving more than one lover may have drastic results, including suicide and murdering a lover, which may or may not result in your execution. Results may vary.